Hello and welcome to YPCtv's Property News Update UK edition. Today's the 8th of December 2010 and I'm Brett Alegre-Wood. Well, Chrissy party went down a treat on Friday night, even if a number of you were snowed in. A big congratulations to Nick Bentley, who won the client section of the Best Mo, and also Ash, who won the team section. The photos will be online in the next few days. I mentioned last time about the 100,000 book project. We're just putting the finishing touches on this and we'll be launching it real soon. Okay, so this week, what we're going to cover. First of all, out of touch. The CEO of Lloyd's thinks more banks won't produce better competition. I think somebody needs to study their economics books again. Part-time, a word you never want to be comfortable with. Okay, Vince Cable takes a dig at the Lord Turner, the FSA, our friend there, and Housebuilders have been given a confidence boost, so that's good news for us, definitely. Also, house prices. We'll look at them globally, locally, and also my best guesstimates. All right, so let's get started then. So first of all, bank bosses hit back at breakup proposals. Look, we've been talking about Lloyd's being too big a bank. It basically controls the mortgage market, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And for this monkey here, Eric Daniels, who's chief executive, to actually think that it's good to have less banks and that it's fine, and that as he says here, I'm not sure dividing up banks further would bring any better outcome. He added, a great majority of customers are satisfied. Well, I'll tell you what, certainly the people I speak to as investors and people who have mortgages, and myself included, we're not very satisfied. In fact, we dislike the whole thing greatly. It should never have been merged. It was a ridiculous concept, and it's certainly something that I don't think should have happened, and I think they should break it up. And the sooner they do, more competition, that's what we want. More, if we break up these guys into smaller banks, that will create the competition. Right now, if you're getting a mortgage, there is no competition. What there is massive raping and pillaging, and I use those words very, scarcely, except when it comes to banks. The profits they're making are ridiculous, and what they're trying to do is make us as investors pay for all their mistakes and for their excesses. Moving on, the rise of part-time as 1 in 10 over 75 still has a mortgage to pay. Now look, that's not the main concern. The main concern is when you start to read this and you say, and it warns that many face a struggle to maintain even basic standards of living. Okay, the research also found that more than 50% of over 55s do not have any savings. So if you think about it, if you're in that game and you've got no savings, you're over 55, or even if you're heading towards that, and that can mean you're a 35-year-old with no assets and nothing, or a 45-year-old that doesn't have substantial assets. You need to start realizing that pretty soon you're going to have a choice. You're going to have food or fuel, and not both, and if you don't do something about it, if you don't build a portfolio, if you don't look after your pension, you don't start providing for that, then you're going to be left with the choice of either eating or heating, and that's not a choice you want. And in some cases, you might not even get that choice. It's a ridiculous thing to think that you work all these years and you end up in that position. But unfortunately, that's what's happening. That's the reality out there, and it's getting worse. So you need to do something. Part-time, you never want to be there. It's not a term that you want to become familiar with. Okay. Just coming back to this issue, look, this is Vince Cable. Actually, we don't often agree, but we do agree on this. He's basically got Lord Turner talking about the RBS debacle that's happened, and just looking at that. But it's amazing. The FSA said that the bad decisions rather than dishonesty caused the problems at RBS, and to a degree I believe that. I don't think there was dishonesty involved. I think it was just the excesses, and it's all very good for us to say the bankers are to blame and try and lay blame on all these things, but the realistic thing of it is that we're all involved in it. We all wanted more. We all wanted it to keep going. We wanted cheap credit. We wanted all these sort of things. So we're all, partly to blame for that. And I think, if we track it down, really, it's about human nature. It was human nature to want more. And that will actually happen again. So as much as they say, we're going to regulate, we're going to do all these things, it'll move back to where it was. And, it's a cycle, and it's a cycle that happens time and time again. Okay, so Housebuilders rally. Now, what they're talking about here is, share prices. And I actually, I made a nice little profit in Barclay Group out of that. I sold some shares I had in them because I realised I bought them because of the dividend. Then I realised that I'd made the mistake and they didn't pay a dividend since 2004, so I got rid of the shares. But it just so happened that the shares had jumped up quite magically. So That's good news. But this is across the board, because what's happened is, rather than being really bad news and things dropping down. Now, I'll just read this here. The decline in consumer confidence appears to have leveled out, and encouragingly, people are still committing to purchase even at this time of the year. Okay. Now remember, we normally have a spring surge in prices. Okay, and then what happens? Winter, it abates a bit. Well, actually, yeah, that's happening now. Prices are coming back down, but nowhere near as much as people thought, and certainly the double dip is looking less and less likely. So it's good news. You know, if we're looking at the developers and the major developers, what I found was interesting was we sell an average of 70 homes a year. Now, they are saying that they only so far have done 3,600, which is only just over 300 a month. So for me, it's like, actually, YPC aren't that much behind Bellway. Maybe, 4 times. So yeah, it's something to look forward to. But anyway, good fun. Okay, so house price growth slows. Now, this is worldwide we're talking about. And just reading this resulted in an overall improvement of house prices of 3.1%, which compares to 4.3% in the second quarter of 2010. Now, this is not the UK, this is global house prices, all right? Looking at all the various markets. Meanwhile, even these gloomy figures are more positive than at sometime last year, when house price growth stood at -6. So things are definitely recovering. Things are definitely looking good. And look, there's still areas, that you need to be worried and you need to be scared of and to stay away from. Certainly, if you're looking at any international property, I would still be very, very cautious about that. The UK is getting back on its feet. Lending is slowly coming back. It's looking better, okay? And keeping with that theme around house prices, house price declines are easing off, all right? House prices continue to fall in November, so they're still coming down. What's happening, rather than going like this, they're starting to peter out like this, but at a much slower rate than during the property slump in 2008, according to latest figures released by Nationwide Building Society. The Nationwide House Price Index showed a drop of 0.3 during November compared to a 0.7 in October. All right, so I think, and certainly, the word on the street is that the house prices are starting to come back. Supply is drying up, and that's what we would expect. I've been saying that we've been bouncing for a long time. We've been bouncing along the bottom. The statistics have been going like this, and now they've come back down. So it's actually good news for the market, and it's good news because we've got some reality back into the marketplace. We'll see what happens next year. I'm going to sort of think about what my predictions are for next year. But interestingly, I predicted a 5% increase this year, and if you look at Land Registry, annual 3.2 increase. So we might end up on 3%. So that if I'm 2% out, hey, I'm happy with that. So it's not a bad prediction, I think. We'll see what happens next year, and we'll see who actually was able to put it on the nose and actually say around about 3% increase. But guys, that's all for today. We'll see you again next time.